but started out with a movie that is available in theaters now, hopefully playing in your area. It's Triangle of Sadness. It's the latest film from Ruben Östlund about two models in a relationship, Carl and Yaya, who are invited for a luxury cruise with an assortment of the ultra rich, but the trip quickly turns from pick worthy to puke worthy. This is actually the third time we'll be discussing Triangle of Sadness on the podcast, because Amanda was on with us after it won the Palme d'Or in Cannes, and then the Cast boys joined us after TIFF. But Art and I have not had a chance to weigh in on the film yet, so I'll ask Austin to go first. Austin, what did you think of Ruben Östlund's latest cringe fest?
Yeah, this is one of those movies. You see the poster and then you see the cast list, and you think certain people are going to be, I'll say, in the movie a little bit more than they are. You don't entirely know what this story is going to entail. And I'm not as familiar with this director as I maybe should have been, so I didn't know what the tone would be. I didn't know what the experience would be like. And I'll tell you one thing, I was entertained. I was entertained because I didn't really see what was coming next. I liked the pacing. I've seen some people say they had some pacing problems with the movie. I did like the pacing. It's just a different type of experience. But there are some performances in here, man, that shocked me. I didn't think they would be as good as they were. And it's one of those movies that I think is hitting a lot of people in different ways because they just didn't expect it to be on this level of quality. I think after it started winning some of the earlier awards, we went into it at the New York Film Festival kind of knowing it would be on a higher level of quality. But even then, and watching this, through the first act, I'm like, I'm entertained, but is it a great movie? I don't even know if it's an outstanding film, but I would consider it a really good movie, but more so a really good experience. And I liked the script quite a bit. There are shortcomings. I'm trying to tiptoe there's some spoilers. I like the script, and I like the way it ends. I'll say that. And I like the way the movie ends.
Yeah, I remember when the film did premiere at Cannes, or rather when it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, there were a lot of people that were a bit surprised that this was the one that they chose, especially because Force Majeure, his earlier film, had also won. And, it's definitely not the type of movie that you consider as like kind of prestige-y awards bait. There's some very broad, ridiculous comedy happening. And I think there's also that element of disjointedness that you're talking about, where like it's maybe a bit on the longer side, and there are sort of like these segments to it. So yeah, maybe that's where some people get their pacing issues from. I didn't really like you have too much of a problem with how the film moved or how long it was. I think there are maybe moments where it is a little bit less involving and a little bit like setup, but then you get to these sequences that are just so over the top and so like crazy in terms of the ways in which they flip the situation on their head. This is really a movie about these people who are extremely well off, extremely benefit from their class privileges, just having those privileges ripped away from them by various circumstances, and just to see the places that Östlund gets his characters to.
Yeah,
just the journey there is pretty hysterical. So I had a really fun time with this one, even if it maybe is weird in terms of how it progresses there, and sometimes it feels a little bit like there's not enough setup for certain situations, but I still thought it was very funny. And there's a lot of, like you said, performances that really, really stuck with me in this one.
Yeah.
Arturo, you like this one too, right?
Not as much as I like what I think is his masterpiece,
Force Majeure. Yep.
But damn, is it so much better than The Square, which is a movie I'll rewatch one day, but I absolutely despise. Yeah, I don't think it's a pacing thing. I think it's a tonal thing. I think, like the movie calls itself, it's a triangle. It's in 3 parts, very distinctly. And I loved the first part. The second part seems to be laughing with, or it thinks it's laughing at, and then the audience thinks it's laughing with the subject matter that's happening in the second, specifically between 2 characters who just decide to spill out every grievance that they've ever had politically or ideologically, before becoming what is a completely different movie in that last third. I'm more conflicted with it, I guess, the more that I've thought about it. But then at the same time, I guess I like it more as a character piece than I like it thematically, if that makes sense. I
Right.
like what you see the
Yes.
characters arguing with in the first part of the story, and then how that comes into play as roles reverse in the latter half.
Totally.
I don't know if the comedy always hits, but that is his style of comedy, and it hit
Yeah.
really well for me in Force Majeure, where he just won't let up on a bit. If someone's crying, they will continue to cry for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Here, it's other bodily fluids that are coming out of bodies, and damn, does he go in with that?
Yeah. Should we talk about that sequence briefly without spoiling it too much? Was it
Shoot.
good? Was it too long? Was it too excessive? Was it did it feel like the right like undercutting of this like high class luxury cruise? Austin, did that whole bit in the middle work for you?
It did. It did feel a little disjointed, right? That's a good point. Tonally, but it's very aware
Yes.
of what it's doing, right? It's not like it's not doing this on accident. It's very aware that it's going here in one scene, and maybe the very next scene it's going all the way over here. So that's a sequence that I look at and I'm like, it's part of me feels like it was a little disjointed, but on purpose. So that's a sequence that really worked for me. And I think the entirety of the middle, you say triangle, 3 very distinct portions, that really, the entirety of the middle of the movie worked really well for me. And that's when I kind of fell in love with, that's what this director's going. And again, not as familiar with this director's work.
Yeah.
So now I'm very intrigued though to go back and see what some of these other movies are all about.
Yeah.
Especially
Definitely got to catch
the
Force
Square.
Majeure.
You gotta catch
Force Majeure is the one. Yeah,
That's the one.
He comes out loving the Square. He's got all the Square merch. It becomes his like thing, his new personality.
Sweatshirt.
But no, you are right in saying that he is 100% doing it on purpose. In Force Majeure, there is a crying scene. When this movie didn't get nominated for the Oscars, he was doing a live stream. I highly recommend searching it. And he breaks down crying, and it went viral. That the director of this international film couldn't take the rejection. People didn't realize he memifies himself so well. He was just reenacting the crying scene from the movie.
Yeah.
And playing the bit. So yeah, when he has that middle sequence that's going way overboard, he is fully aware that he wants the people at Cannes to be sitting there while all of these rich people are slipping and sliding in the way that they are. He's that type of director, which again creates some of my favorite movies and then creates the Square.
That makes me more confident though in what I was feeling maybe during that moment.
Definitely.
Like, yeah, I feel like he's self-aware. Is he self-aware? But you say that, and then you say his other movies are in the same vein. That makes me. I need to go back and see this movie now because now I'm looking at it through a different lens, which is good. It's helpful.
The main guy in this, who was also in The Kingsman, I've been really liking him as an actor, even in like other projects where there was something else that he recently. See How They Run. I thought he was really good in there. I thought that was a pretty decent movie. He was really good in Beach Rats as well. And being here.
Yeah, when you told me it's the dude from Beach Rats, that blew my mind. That's
how far
awesome.
he's come, right? Yeah, it's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to the next thing that he's in, even if the project itself doesn't excite me as much. Like he always delivers. So
Harris Dickinson,
he's been doing really good.
Yeah. I thought Charles B. Dean it was also quite excellent, tragically
incredible
in this film, since she has since passed. But yeah, so good. But the one that really blew me away was Dolly De Leon, who doesn't really do a whole lot in the film until that last act of it, but she dominates the latter half of the movie, and I don't know, it's a very fun performance. So yeah, I think we'd all recommend Triangle of Sadness, even if it is maybe a bit of a weird mishmash of ideas and not the best movie we've gotten from Ruben Östlund, but still like a very funny, interesting time. And even though it has that longer runtime, I think ultimately like it's the highlights of the film that'll stick with you, not the length of it.
Yep. Worth the matinee.
Cool.